When I was hanging out with friends during my last year of college, we first met paths. We literally ran into each other at a Nashville neighborhood club where Sarah was celebrating her 21st birthday. I strolled by her table and unintentionally spilled my drink on her. I apologized after a moment of hesitation, and we started talking while I helped her clean up the spill. I think there was a special chemistry between us that pulled us together like magnets, despite what some might say about it being love at first sight. After that night, we were unable to remain apart. After a year, we got married and started our lives together. Although my friends call me Johnny, my name is Jonathan Parks. After earning my accounting degree, I worked for a reputable Atlanta firm as a certified public accountant, Sarah and I settling near to our families. I finally went out on my own and started my own practice after honed my abilities at the firm. With a business administration degree, Sarah helped me for the first 2 years until she fell pregnant with our beautiful daughter, Angel. We had an amazing relationship. We were incredibly in love and treasured every second we spent together. Our love for our darling daughter grew when Angel entered our life. We led the classic family life for the next 10 years. While Sarah took care of our daughter and ran the household, I worked hard to expand the business. We were clearly happy since we made love to each other at least 3 times a week. Sincere affection and intensely sensuous sentiments for one another formed the basis of our relationship. We respected each other too much to indulge in overly dramatic or experimental relationships. I enjoyed spoiling Sarah. She was happy to receive my affection. But she didn't like under-the-belt pleasures, and she probably only had them on special occasions, maybe fewer than 10 times in our marriage. I loved our relationship and was happy with our life together, so I never pushed her. Sarah was one of my favorite things since she was so attentive. She surrounded me with kisses, hugs, hand-holding, and never letting go whenever we were together, starting from the minute we exchanged vows. We were incredibly close, and I loved every second we spent together. Often our friends would make fun of us and say that our love wouldn't last. However, after 10 years of this kind of commitment, they finally realized how special our relationship was. Sarah announced her intention to return to the workforce when Angel became 10 years old. Now that Angel had established a schedule and was home from school promptly at 3:30 p.m., Sarah went on to explain that she wanted to reintegrate into society rather than be restricted to her house every day. After several deliberations, we came to an agreement and created a strategy to guarantee that Angel would always receive the appropriate level of care for a 10-year-old. Sarah got a job as a personal assistant to William Aston, a lawyer 10 years older than she was. The work schedule was flexible, and Sarah enjoyed having major duties to handle, which gave her more confidence. Sarah found fulfillment in her new role as a mother and professional after moving from being a homemaker, and I was there to assist her. She was able to get home on time every day and continued to be loyal to Angel. Our family became stronger over time. We lived comfortably in a posh apartment block where we had country club memberships. We were able to accumulate enough money for both our retirement and Angel's college education because of our stable finances. We were blessed with excellent health, stable finances, and a worry-free existence. As is to be expected, after 10 years of marriage, as is the case with most marriages, our bed life dynamics changed. We went from having sex 3 or 4 times a week to only twice a week, usually on Friday and Saturday evenings. We loved our connection and continued to adore each other, even if our routine grew predictable. Sarah remained attentive and showed her love every time, which I really appreciated. I found greater significance in our shared intimacy over the years than in our actual proximity. The best moments of our marriage, in my opinion, were when Sarah would impulsively give me embraces and kisses out of pure love. I loved her back too, but Sarah always made sure I understood how much she loved me. Sarah started working late twice a week, while Angel joined the maths club and stayed late after school, getting home at around 5 o'clock. This worked out well because it was in line with Angel's trip home, which fit my timetable. At that age, we were determined not to leave her home alone, so we planned our schedules appropriately. Sarah's boss, William, had just been elevated to senior partner at his father-in-law's company. After he was promoted, Sarah discovered she had to work 2 evenings a week for a few more hours. She would specifically get back home by 7 p.m. every Thursday and Tuesday. I made sure dinner was ready for her when she got home from her hard day at work at these occasions. Everything else in our marriage did not change in spite of these changes. In the meantime, My own company was doing well and bringing in a steady, comfortable salary. Now that the business employed 45 people, I was completely focused on growing our business. Due to our accounting firm's stellar reputation, larger firms in the area had taken notice, with some even exploring mergers or acquisitions. When Angel turned 15, she began to think about her future and her prospects for college. Sarah was still working for William, and she looked as gorgeous as she did the day we first met. Sarah had been fortunate in that she had continued to keep her slim figure, which was enhanced by her attractive long legs and round behind. Although Sarah had a beautiful face, she was always businesslike and traditional. Some may find our lifestyle boring since we spend much of our time at home, watching films or going to get-togethers with our daughter. We were a family that rarely went anywhere without each other. Sarah's manager, William, got in touch with me and told me that Sarah was going to be honored at a banquet next month, and that Angel and I were invited as well. I told Angel with great excitement that her mother was going to be honored for her outstanding contributions to her field. Our attendance was sought because this honor was unexpected. Normally, staff only attended these kinds of gatherings, but we were told to keep it a secret until the ceremony. Under William's guidance, Sarah's commitment over the previous 5 years has improved both her professional fulfillment and her self-esteem, as seen by her improved behavior at home. Knowing how hard she worked and how highly regarded she was within the workplace, Angel and I were proud to hear about her honor. Sarah told them she had a business meeting at the Ritz-Carlton in downtown and would be staying late to finish a presentation for the whole company. She was really excited about the chance and spent many hours in the weeks preceding the presentation preparation. Sarah didn't know she was getting an award, didn't know we were inviting her, and didn't know until the last minute while Angel and I waited for the ceremony to happen. As we got ready for the event, excitement increased. In order to make Sarah's family pleased of her presentation, I went shopping with Angel to get a new dress and a new suit. Sarah looked professional while showcasing her lovely curves in an amazing knee-length dress with a cutaway back at the award presentation. She was 37 years old, yet she looked young and desirable. Angel and I gave her a warm embrace and wished her luck on her presentation before the limo came to take her away. We had 2 hours to get ready, so we dressed quickly and got to the event on schedule. 30 minutes or so before Sarah's talk began, we were seated at a table in the middle of the room with an amazing view of the podium by our host. Everyone expressed their appreciation for Sarah and their joy at meeting Angel and me, making us feel very special. Being with our mother and wife made us feel quite welcome and comfortable. The first speaker was highlighted by spotlights as they presented the firm's founder, then the CEO, and finally William, the senior partner, as the hall's lights went down, indicating the start of the performance on stage. William gave a quick overview of the company's accomplishments before introducing Sarah, who was in charge of summarizing a few of the highlights from the previous year. Sarah looked stunning as she walked onto the stage, and I could see the joy in Angel's eyes as she watched her mother confidently and professionally begin her presentation. Sarah gave a summary of the company's achievements in the previous year, including its continuing projects and victories. She gave William back the stage after her speech, which lasted for around 10 minutes. But before she left, William took hold of her hands and drew her nearer while he spoke to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "before Sarah steps down from the stage, I would like to say a few words. Over the past 5 years, Sarah and I have worked closely together, and she has become an indispensable part of our organization and my professional life. I firmly believe that without her, we would not have achieved the successes she described today. It is with great honor that I present Sarah with our highest accolade, the Chairman's Club Award. This award is bestowed upon employees who exceed expectations and are recognized for their unwavering dedication to the company." A large plaque and an envelope with a $10,000 award were given to Sarah. Tears filled her eyes as she turned to face the audience, thanked everyone, and gladly accepted the bill. She also embraced William. We both burst into tears. Angel and I full of pride for Sarah. It was one of our happiest evenings as everyone at the table embraced me. We were beaming with pride and couldn't help but smile when the lights came on, indicating that refreshments were about to be served. I took a glass, told Angel I would be back soon, and headed for one of the bars at the other end of the room. I noticed that there were long lines, so I went to the vacant bar next to the stage and got Angel a double Jack and a soft drink. I smiled, threw $5 into the tip jar, picked up my beverages, and headed back to our table feeling quite happy and giving. But all of a sudden, my world collapsed. On the way back, I noticed something that made me turn around and look into it. A couple hugged, their bodies hidden from view behind the curtains. I noticed the woman's clothing even though her behavior looked inappropriate for the situation. Sarah was wearing the same dress. I turned aside for a moment, then stopped dead in my tracks. The duo had no inhibitions as they kissed passionately. The man's hand freely massaged her rear end while the woman encircled him with her arms. The way they hugged one another suggested that this was not their first experience with each other. They were obviously comfortable behind the curtain and indulged in sensual desires. I felt as though I was standing immobile, grasping 2 glasses with my mouth open and watching something happen outside of my body. I kept a close eye on them until they eventually split, which confirmed my worst suspicions. Yes, Sarah, the woman who was giving her boss, William, a passionate kiss, was the love of my life. Just then, one of the drinks slid out of my hand and caught the couple's notice. I was brought back to earth when I saw the shocked expression on Sarah's face as she noticed the looks they were receiving. My stomach dropped and a stinging pain pierced my heart as my emotions returned, leaving me speechless. I turned on my heel and walked back to our table, clutching the last of the drink, not sure how to respond. Sarah started running after me at the same time, catching up before we got there. "Sweetheart, I just realized you and Angel were here for the awards ceremony. Thank you for coming. What you saw, it wasn't what it seemed. Let us talk later, okay?" she begged. I nodded silently and moved across to our table, where everyone congratulated Sarah. With a somber expression on my face, I sat in stunned silence, unable to speak as Angel gave her mother a heartfelt embrace and congratulations. Sarah said she needed to finish off a few things before she could come back. Angel tried to ask how I was doing, seeing how I had changed, but I just shook my head and didn't say anything more for the rest of the night. I was obviously not myself, and I didn't feel at ease with the people around me. I was unable to get over what I had seen. It was not just a cordial gesture. Sarah and I had actually not kissed so passionately in a long time. It had been more than 5 years since our last such passionate encounter. Looking back, I was unable to deny the changes that had taken place as I thought back on those years. I felt trouble was developing, but I wasn't quite sure what kind of problem it was at the time. Sarah and Angel talked about the celebration on the way home, and Angel said she was proud of her mother. I said nothing, lost in contemplation, still reeling from what I had seen. Angel and Sarah both sensed my hesitation and tried to start a discussion with me, but I would not talk. Sarah realized what she had done and tried to atone for it by showing more love, but I refused to accept her attempts. I made an effort to hide my emotions from Angel, but she could see I was upset and sensibly left me alone with my thoughts. She said in a whisper, "Dad, if you need to talk, I'm here for you," gave me a hug and a kiss and went to bed without saying anything. I went to bed, but a few minutes later I heard Sarah come in. She climbed into bed and reached out to embrace me, her voice trembling with fear as she tried to console me. "Johnny, are you okay, baby?" I moved my head away from her. "I know what it looked like and I'm sorry. I don't know what to say, but it wasn't what it seemed. Please talk to me." I lay there in silence, my amazement beginning to give way to rage. I knew that anything I said would only be hurtful and ineffective, so I held my tongue. I had nothing to say to her. She kept trying to comfort me, but I ignored her and went into the worst dream I've ever had. I awakened the next morning to sunlight pouring through the window, readying myself for what I knew would be a difficult day. I was having trouble understanding what was going on, remembering what had happened the night before. I showered and went back to the bedroom where Sarah was watching me and trying to seem like nothing had occurred. She said, "Good morning, honey. Did you sleep well?" Without realizing how serious the situation was, I dressed, ignoring her inquiry, and gave her one more look before heading out of the room. I turned and gave her a contemptuous glance, and for the first time since the meal, I spoke. "How long?" I asked. But she only stared at her hands without answering, so I went to collect my thoughts. During breakfast, my thoughts were racing. I anticipated learning the truth about her affair and understood that things would alter between us. Sarah recognized the value of being truthful because she knew that lying would be caught. We had always had a close relationship, and she had never done anything to make me doubt her loyalty. I had not detected any change in our intimacy in spite of this. How could she act like this when having an affair when she was still giving me the same hugs and kisses? I'm baffled. How can she still be affectionate with me if she's attached to him? Could it really be that William and the lady I love are having an affair? Oh my, this is really horrible. I can't believe this has really happened. William knows he shouldn't show love outside of his workplace, but he just had to kiss me this evening. I can understand his excitement because the evening was exciting and I relished his kisses and embraces. He knows, though, that I'm stringent about public shows of affection and the hazards associated with them. This presents me with a serious problem. How do I describe what Johnny saw to him? He's aware of that, and I'm sure it won't be simple. I remember when my affair with William first began. It started during a turbulent time in his marriage, a year after I was hired as his assistant. His wife was stressed and busy as they handled their challenges, raising 6 small children, including twins. William told me all about his difficulties. Our relationship became closer, and even though it had unexpected effects, I helped him through his struggles. I was moved by William's strength and compassion, and I felt obliged to offer him comfort in the midst of the chaos. I gave him hugs at times, telling him that things will get better with time and love for his wife. One of these hugs sent us into a flurry of desire that ended with a kiss that sparked a romantic rendezvous on his office couch. In retrospect, I saw my self-centeredness and the snare I had fallen into. As William's assistant, I was highly esteemed, which made me feel superior to other employees. In the office, William was full of accolades and praise, and my sense of importance was heightened by his impending appointment to CEO. I was so inspired to console him when I saw him in distress that fateful evening. William was clearly upset after having a furious phone argument with his wife. I gave him a hug and reassured him that everything would be well. Our hug turned into a kiss, and as our eyes locked, it developed into a 2-hour meeting in his office. I gave myself over completely, enthralled by his might. Our relationship was strengthened by my innate tendency to show affection through hugs and kisses. I was so overcome with remorse afterward that I considered telling Johnny, but I refrained from doing so because I didn't want to endanger our marriage. I knew Johnny knew about my transgression when I got home, yet he and Angel welcomed me home with love and affection as usual. Even though I was filled with remorse, I made the decision to remain silent and promised myself never to bring up the issue again. Ultimately, what happened that night was a unique event that is unlikely to happen again. We spoke with William the following day and came to the agreement that what had happened would not happen again. Realizing it was an isolated incident, we had to move on. We worked late into the night many nights in the following months, and before I knew it, I was back in William's reassuring arms. I was completely in love with Johnny, and I didn't want to hurt him or put our marriage in danger, so I didn't feel inclined to betray him. But spending time with William was unlike anything else. He didn't have the physical appeal of my darling husband, but his commanding presence gave me a sense of security. William was not as charming as Johnny because he was bald and overweight. Johnny trusted me completely and had no worries about William, as he knew me well. As a result, he felt comfortable with my working with William after hours. William was taller than most, standing over 6 feet tall with strong arms and a thick build, which stood in sharp contrast to his ugly visage. I was enthralled with his physically right away, especially his large member, and I couldn't wait for more. Our interactions opened my eyes to feelings and experiences I had never experienced before, which fueled an ever-growing need for intimacy. Our relationship began with no love or emotional bond, but as time went on, it developed into a strong bond between us. Amazingly, our liaison helped keep William and his wife together. Twice a week, our time together seemed to ease his home responsibilities. I was able to assist William without endangering Johnny's welfare thanks to this arrangement, which cleared my record and made me feel better about what I had done. My personal life continued to be satisfying in the interim. My affection and attention for Johnny and Angel remained unwavering. William's promotion meant that our meetups would now take place in his secure office twice a week. Even though our relationship was secretive, we decided to limit our communication to those times only in order to maintain privacy. We savored emotional and physical intimacy for 3 years, going beyond simple physical satisfaction. We explored each other's passions at his office, which became into a haven that left me craving more. William's approach to making love was more passionate, pushing limits with every encounter. But Johnny's lovemaking was the embodiment of compassion. I was able to satisfy my desires in numerous relationships without feeling guilty about it. It was amazing how comforting it was to give William the same love and care that I gave Johnny. Understanding the importance of these actions and creating lust during our private meetings, I took on the role of William's confidant and friend, loving our special relationship while making sure it stayed inside our scheduled sessions. Since neither of us wanted to hurt our wives, our relationship blossomed into a close friendship based on prudence and understanding. Any initial shame I felt washed away, leaving only a feeling of satisfaction. I felt entitled to the life I lived at work, where I was always professional and kept our affair a secret from everyone. Family pictures covered the walls of William's office, and he frequently spoke positively of his kids, solidifying his image as a loving husband and father. In a similar vein, I presented a true front to Johnny and Angel when we weren't meeting in secret, acting as their mother and wife. Even though I was really attached to Johnny and gave him a lot of love and attention, I couldn't help but feel satisfied when I was with William. I loved our family life and did everything in my power to protect them from harm caused by myself. I foolishly thought that our family life would not be affected by my relationship with William, until the disclosure caused my false presumptions to come tumbling down. Johnny was astute. His keen glance this morning demonstrated his comprehension of the issue. Now that he is asking me directly, I am not sure if I should tell him the truth or not. I can't live a lie, but I also can't bear to lose Johnny. Tears that seep into my pillow do not provide comfort, so my only option is to be honest with him and ask for his forgiveness. I hope that Johnny's love for me will win out in spite of my sin, and we can get through this together. I looked at the time and realized that Angel needed to get to her maths club at school by 1 p.m., so I had to face the reality. When I got home, Sarah was sitting on the terrace sipping coffee and staring out at the lake. I asked the same question again, sat down next to her, and poured myself another cup without saying anything. There was a brief period of stillness during which I saw tears streaming down Sarah's cheeks. The next thing that happened completely shocked me and made me feel something visceral in a quiet, sobbing way. Sarah admitted, 3 years during your late work evenings. She repeated, yes, very softly, almost inaudibly. Once more, I fell silent for a bit before answering. So you're telling me that for the past 3 years, those 2 nights each week when you worked late were the only times you were carnal with William? Yes, we never did it anywhere else, and I have so much to explain when you're ready to listen. So you're admitting that you've been having an affair with your boss twice a week for 3 years? You don't need to be a mathematician to figure out the frequency, over 300 times. I assume you didn't stop at just once each time, Sarah. You've betrayed me over 500 times. Do you think any man could bear that? As the tears kept falling, I kept going. You both must have found it amusing ridiculing me as the clueless man. I can only imagine the insults hurled at me behind my back. Thank you, Sarah. I never imagined you capable of this. You've shattered our marriage and my heart. Johnny, it's not like that. But it is. I ordered her to stop. I left her there, crying, begging me to stay, as I got up from the porch. Calm on the outside, furious inside, I pulled back to get my bearings. I had never experienced betrayal before, so I needed time to internalize her comments, understand them, and determine how to respond. My brother Tony was the only one remaining who I could confide in. Despite our tight upbringing, we went in various directions in life. Tony was involved in dangerous circles and trafficked euphoria drugs, which resulted in his 5 years in federal jail. On the other hand, I was a devout churchgoer, a compliant taxpayer, and a spotless accountant. Even though we didn't talk all that often, Tony could always count on me for help. Through my connections, I supported him throughout his trial and was able to have his obligatory 20-year sentence reduced to 5 years. I contacted him that morning. Hey Tony, it's me, your older brother. Bro, how's it going? What's up? You sound troubled. Got something on your mind? Yeah, it's tough. Sarah cheated on me and I just found out. I'm feeling torn up and hurting. Drinking doesn't help. I just needed to talk to someone. Sorry to unload this on you. Wow, that's rough. I care about Sarah too. Do you know who it was and how it happened? I know who, but not all the details yet. I want to get back at that guy. I'm so mad I could strangle my wife. Listen, I've known people who've been through this. I get how you're feeling. You need to let go of that anger, hit the gym, go for a run, whatever helps you chill out. I'll help you through this. Get the facts, then decide what to do. Stay composed even though it won't be easy. Call me tomorrow. Let me know what you find out. Trust me, I got your back. Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it. I'll give you a call tomorrow. I stopped at a mattress store and thought of something. Knowing that I wouldn't be ending the marriage until after Angel left for college in 2 years, I parked and made the decision. I was never going to sleep in Sarah's bed again. I refused to leave my bedroom. Later, everything else would fit into place. I offered the salesman 2 full-size beds with delivery and assembly set for today at 4 p.m., and I would pay full price. I texted Angel to let her know that I would drive to school, pick her up, and wait for her in the parking lot while they had lunch. I mentioned with tact the impending changes at home. What went down at dinner last night, Daddy? Something seemed off. I'm not clueless. Please don't keep me out of the loop. It's not right. You've always been upfront with me, fair enough given the gravity. You deserve to know I caught your mom and her boss sharing a kiss backstage. Dad, maybe it was just a congratulatory peck. You can't overreact to a kiss. After our confrontation, she confessed to a 3-year affair. It's incomprehensible. Our dynamic has shifted permanently. 3 years. Are you thinking about divorcing her dad? Not immediately. I'm grappling with this. We'll stay married, but things will change. You need to stay impartial. She's your mom, and she loves you. This is between us. You've been a blessing, a stellar daughter. I don't want your life altered by our mistakes. Please reserve judgment. Just know we cherish you above all else. She wept, acknowledging the pain I felt. I didn't want her to feel guilty, but it was necessary for her to understand the changes in our household. Sarah's surprise was evident when she saw us arrive together. From Angel's expression, she knew what I had revealed. Angel shot her a glare and retreated to her room without a word. Did you tell her? She sensed something was off and deserves to know. Our lives will shift and she needs to grasp why. You can explain when she's ready. What do you mean by everything changes? Divorce isn't on the table right now. If it ever happens, it won't be now. I want to see how this plays out. Plus, I wouldn't do that to Angel. But things will definitely be different starting today. Johnny, let me explain and try to understand. You're my husband, and I love you. Well, you had love-making with William over 500 times behind my back. That's it, Sarah. I don't know if there's anything you could say that any self-respecting man would accept. Do you think I'm that weak? Obviously, you're not serious. What breaks my heart is losing the closeness I cherished. I'll never share a bed with you again. I'll miss making love with you, but not as much as your affectionate kisses and hugs. That'll hurt the most. Other changes are inevitable. You broke our vows and our marriage contract. Like you, I won't be faithful anymore. I'll seek another relationship. I never considered it before, so it may be a while before I find someone. I like you can keep seeing your lover because you won't hear from me again. It was as if she had been struck in the head, visibly recoiling from my words. Losing her balance, she shuddered and collapsed onto the sofa. Johnny, you can't see other women. It would destroy me and I won't allow it. I love you. It's not how it seems. I understand it's difficult, but let me try to explain. Sarah, 500 times behind my back, and now you're worried about consequences? You changed everything, Sarah. Don't forget, this all happened because of your deceit, lies, and infidelity. At that moment, the doorbell chimed. I ushered in the installers and pointed them toward the bed that needed disassembly. They got to work. What's happening? Who are these individuals? Well, Sarah, moving into the extra room wouldn't be fair for either of us since I'll never again share a bed with you. I thus purchased 2 new beds. The new beds will be assembled later. For now, our old bed is being disassembled. You have 3 months to select a new mattress if you're not content with this one. Different beds? Yes, I don't want you in my bed since we won't be having sexual relations. Yes, and I can't believe you had 500 sexual relations with your boss behind my back. So we're even. Tony, you won't believe what I just found out, I said, feeling regret and sadness as I watched the workers disassemble the bed we had loved for so long. For the past 3 years, Sarah has been having an affair with her employer twice a week. I've heard that she has slept with this guy more than 500 times behind my back. I have to be the most naive man on the planet. I had no idea what to do after she humiliated me in ways I never imagined. Who is this man? Her employer? Aston. William. How would you like to handle it? I want him to suffer, to make the worst possible amends for his actions. My wife was sent home to me by this guy after they had been having sexual relations for years. For the past 3 years, he has consistently deceived and embarrassed me, and I can't continue to ignore it. And to me, Sarah is dead. When Angel starts college, I'll get a divorce from her, but in the meanwhile, I'm going to make her feel bad about what she did. I'm keeping her out of my life for the time being, so she will be alone. I'll destroy her career and make her public if she tries to file for divorce before Angel enrolls in college. Tony, I don't want you getting into trouble. You concentrate on Mr. Aston, and I'll take care of things at home. Avoid doing any actions that can lead to your arrest, recognize? Obviously, sibling, I'm not a concern, we'll talk soon. Following that, tensions at home were palpable. Sarah attempted conversation, but I responded with monosyllables. Though she tried to seek forgiveness, I remained hurt, angry, and resolute. I buried myself in work, returning home late each evening and spending weekends away. The atmosphere was tense, everyone walking on eggshells anticipating my outburst. Returning home one evening after a long day, I found Sarah waiting to talk. After years of sharing a bed with the woman I loved, I now slept just a few feet away from her. It was a somber realization, and I wasn't sure how I'd cope for the next 2 years until Angel left for college. After my shower, as I settled into bed, Sarah inquired, "Johnny, how was your day?" "All right, Johnny. I've been thinking," I said sharply. "I'd like to talk to you and get your perspective. Even though I know that things aren't perfect between us, I still want to make things right because I love you, even if it takes a little while. I was thinking of giving up my work. I could spend more time with you at home, and we don't really need the additional money. Baby, what are your thoughts?" Despite my efforts to control my anger, hearing her speak kindly and attempt to reconnect ignited fury within me. I sat down, speaking harshly, disregarding her stunned expression. "Listen, Sarah. I don't give a damn about what you do. It's your life, so it doesn't matter if you work, don't work, sleep with your boss, or find someone else. Please do as you like, and don't refer to me as honey, baby, or anything else. Just Johnny. I'll never be with you again. The more I think about it, the more convinced I am that you should keep your job and your twice-weekly rendezvous with William." I turned away and rested my head on the pillow. I heard Sarah start to weep and realized the extent of the hurt she had caused me. "Johnny, you don't have to respond, but please let me speak. I can't express how sorry I am for hurting you. I want you to know I still love you. The pain I've caused is unbearable. Not being able to touch, kiss, or hug you is tearing me apart. Your coldness breaks my heart. I miss you in bed. I can't live without your love. I don't know how to fix this, but I don't want to lose you. I'm here whenever you're ready to talk, and I'm ready to tell you everything. The tension at home is affecting Angel. She's distancing herself more. Can we please find a way to coexist without this animosity? It's not fair to her. She's leaving in a few years, and we don't want her last memories here to be filled with hate." I gasped when Angel ought not to go through this. I gave in after a moment, much to Sarah's dismay. Sarah's face lighted up, floods of relief streaming down her cheeks. "Fine, make an appointment and I'll go. But I'm doing this for Angel, not you." The following evening, she told me she had found a therapist and had an appointment for the next day. "Oh, thank you, Johnny. I'll take care of it." We planned to have our combined meeting on Friday at 3 p.m. I was aware that Sarah was correct. We needed to figure out how to get along peacefully if we were going to avoid being divorced in the next 2 years. Angel was full of hope for counseling, full of hope that we might get our family back together. It had been weeks since she had smiled. Sarah said that evening, "Johnny, Angel was thrilled about the couple's counseling. Her smile was priceless when I shared the news." I would avoid spending time with Sarah by going out to supper every evening after work, but I secretly longed to be at home with my kid because I missed her hugs, smiles, and the sound of her calling me Daddy. After attending her solo session, Sarah felt emotionally spent and went home that evening. When I discovered she was crying, I knew it must have been difficult for her to acknowledge how much she had betrayed our family. In spite of this, I couldn't feel any pity or sorrow for the woman who broke my heart. My brother Tony contacted later that week, making vague references to favors he was owing by previous cartel connections. Despite their reputation for brutality, the cartel never wavered in their commitment to paying their debts. Tony gave me assurances that justice would be delivered shortly, so I didn't really need to find out more. Tony contacted a contact, giving them the rundown, making sure they understood how severe the issue was and giving them the assignment. He underlined the importance of a memorable result and included the pertinent information, including the target's name, phone number, and place of employment. Tony knew that this would be a cruel execution, so he left it to them. A white van was waiting for William when he got home, and a young man was approaching his door. The target, William Aston's house, was located across the street. William confronted a reality that would change his life shortly after, even though he had survived the incident and lost the use of his fingers. Consciously aware of the cause of his predicament, even if he had never anticipated such consequences, especially from the modest accountant. Other than his wife, William was involved with Sarah, and when Johnny found out about their affair, it broke his heart. During their covert meetings, Sarah and William, who had previously considered themselves a couple, experienced passionate moments. At first, they thought their acts were innocuous, but soon the consequences were apparent. William was fired, had to go through mental health counseling, had health issues, and had to give up his love of golf. Their ostensibly ideal relationship had irrevocable effects, highlighting the power of decisions. Everything went according to plan when I visited with the consultant, Dr. Doris Winters. Dr. Winters started off by saying, "Johnny, Sarah and I had a meeting this week. She filled me in on everything, and I explained our session dynamics to her. Thank you for being here and trying to navigate your way back. Please be honest in your responses and rest assured that confidentiality is paramount. I've heard it all, so nothing will shock me. I say this so you can feel at ease speaking openly to a stranger," said Dr. Winters. I nodded, anxious to hear what came next. Dr. Winters asked, "Sarah, please share with Johnny what you aim to achieve from these sessions." With tears in her eyes, my wife turned to me and said, "Johnny, there's so much I need to say. I want to rebuild our family, to reconnect with you emotionally and physically. I want us to find our way back to each other, to how things used to be." Her sincerity was evident, and I felt bad for her, even though I knew she was upset with me for having lost my love. Even still, I held my peace and watched in silence as she wiped her eyes. Dr. Winters asked, "Mr. Parks, what do you hope to gain from these sessions?" "I want to rid myself of the fixation on the number 500. If we can achieve that, I believe we can regain some semblance of normalcy," I replied. Sarah winced and looked away at the number 500. "Mr. Parks, I'm puzzled. What significance does this number hold, and why is it imperative to purge it from your thoughts?" Dr. Winters said. I shot back sarcastically, "Doris, may I call you Doris? Let's stick with Dr. Winters for now." "All right, doctor. I thought this number would have come up because of your recent session with Sarah," I said. Turning to face Sarah, I asked, "Did you miss this detail?" Dr. Winters diverted. "Please, Mr. Parks, let's focus. Could you elaborate on the number 500? "All right, as you're aware, given my profession, numbers carry weight for me. What my dear wife failed to mention is that Sarah has engaged in physical relations with William over 500 times in the past 3 years. This figure is etched in my mind, haunting me whenever I see Sarah. She betrayed me with this man 500 times behind my back," I said, bursting with rage and sorrow. There was a solemn silence, until the feelings faded. "Mr. Parks, I empathize with your pain, but such language is uncalled for. It's offensive and unwarranted," Dr. Winters said. "I apologize, and it won't happen again. However, it was necessary to convey my anguish and perspective," I said with conviction. Sarah sobbed and kept saying, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Eventually, my anger subsided, and I felt relief again. "I apologize for my outburst. To address your query, I seek a path to forgive Sarah to the extent that we can create a home free of animosity and resentment. Our daughter shouldn't bear the brunt of her mother's indiscretions. I aspire to cultivate a peaceful household." "Thank you, Mr. Parks," acknowledged Dr. Winters. "I tried over the next few weeks to talk to people in a kind and non-bitter way. Things at home became a little better. Better, but not flawless. Angel stayed home more, and we made an effort to do normal things as a couple, including going out to eat, seeing films, and hanging out with friends. But anybody could see that there was nothing at all intimate between us. I refused to give Sarah a hug, a kiss, or even to let her touch me, which alarmed acquaintances who observed the sharp difference from our earlier married years. We clearly had difficulties, but we persisted. Sarah was shocked to find out about William's accident. Sarah assumed that I was involved in the event and that I was seeking retribution, even if William doesn't say anything about it. She watched my face that night as she told me about the break-in at her ex-boss's residence. My response in the ensuing attack was a quick smile and a nonchalant comment that caught her eye. Her tone got to me. "Really, is that all you have to say?" I glared at her. "Oh, please pardon me for not crying over your lover's loss. Should we send him flowers, sweetheart?" she said, averting her eyes. Sarah saw the meaning. Our progress might be compromised by my involvement in William's ordeal. We hadn't spoken for a few months when Tony gave me a thumbs-up emoji in a message earlier this week. I pondered whether the cops would interview me about the attack and unearth Sarah and William's affair as things were coming to a close. Nevertheless, no such inquiry took place. The culprits and their motivation remained a mystery, and the police finally declared the incident to be an open case. Johnny started dating and going out late into the night as he had promised. Sarah tried to ask him some questions, but soon found it was better to be quiet and not stir up any controversy. Johnny explained that they were cohabiting for their daughter's benefit and were merely legally married. They eventually succeeded in keeping up a courteous front with one another, which made their home life appear bearable. At last, Sarah realized how much she had damaged her husband, and that there was no turning back. In order to keep their family life seeming normal, Johnny threatened to reveal her affair to their friends and family, and ruin her life if she went through with a divorce before Angel departed for college. Sarah was married, but she didn't feel the same kind of love she had before. Lost now, shared with two men who were no longer hers, were the embraces, kisses, and affection that had once defined her life. Her misery was exacerbated by the knowledge that her spouse was having fun with another lady, so she carried on living a depressing life. While therapy provided some comfort, Sarah continued to live alone because she knew Johnny would never forgive her heartbreaking betrayal. She admitted that her own conceit, selfishness, and foolishness had contributed to the breakdown of the marriage and the guy she loved. Angel showed no pity. She loved her mother. Rather, she emphasized to Sarah that she was the one who caused this. Angel loved Sarah, but she could never forgive her for causing her father so much suffering. William, meanwhile, was living in a small flat on a tight budget, unemployed, and divorced. He gave up about 70% of his belongings, including the home where his ex-wife Joy would live in for 10 more years until their youngest child reached 18. Ironically, he ended up alone and unloved, just as his attacker had promised, after being abandoned by both of the women he had slept with and loved, due to his physical limits and melancholy. His severed leg acted as a continual reminder of his extramarital affair with Sarah. William was tragically killed by a truck 1 year after his divorce. Witnesses stated he entered traffic without looking back, which was ruled an accident. People who knew him well thought it was self-destruction. Sarah understood his dejection and even wondered if she would end up the same. Sarah and William never spoke to one another again after their affair, and they both suffered in different but equally excruciating ways from their adultery. After Angel left for college, Johnny brought divorce papers home with him, Though he was first tempted to ruin Sarah's money, he decided on a fair division. Over time, he was able to forgive her, but the love he once felt for her was lost forever. Unaffected by the documents, Sarah signed them without hesitation, admitting that she had a part in their breakup. She was determined not to wander again, and although her confidence in love had been destroyed, she took comfort in the idea of starting over. For Johnny, getting a divorce from the lady he loved was exciting. He was so full of regret that all he wanted was to go back in time and ask Sarah's forgiveness. Still, the ghost of 500 followed him about. They divided their assets and sold the house. Instead of looking for love, Johnny started a brief relationship with Tricia, a dancer who was 15 years younger than him. In the end, amid his renewed happiness, he found in Tricia a companion worthy of being cherished. When Sarah found out that Johnny had remarried, she clung to hope that they might make amends. But she never stopped criticizing herself. She never found love despite dating, and over time, her appearance and personality deteriorated. Despite becoming close to Angel, she never heard from Johnny again and lived a life marred by the suffering she caused. Johnny made sure Angel's tuition was paid for. Angel pursued a career in psychology, got married to a doctor, and had a happy, faithful life while having a big family. She continued to have close relationships with Johnny and Sarah, deviating from her mother's course to leave a legacy of love and devotion.